Cool. Da, na, 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 na. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Film Trooper Presents Film Marketing Fridays. And I am your host, Scott McMahon. I'm a fellow film trooper. And for those of you who are new to Film Trooper is designed to try to help the uber independent filmmaker become entrepreneurs. And interesting enough, I run a podcast as well. So sometimes these live video Google Hangout sessions are available on the YouTube channel, but they're also made available on iTunes and Stitcher Radio as a podcast. And I'm sort of overdue, and it's my bad. Some wonderful people have left reviews on iTunes for the podcast version of all this stuff. And I want to give a shout out to 3 different people that have left 5-star ratings review over at iTunes. So I want to thank the Conflict Guru, who said, in this age of life hacking, Scott helps you hack your film career so that you can find your audience, market, and hopefully make some money so you can do it all over again. It's great for all levels. So I want to thank the Conflict Guru for that. And I want to also thank Mr. Parson, who said that very informative, and as a super micro budget filmmaker in Portland myself, because I'm up here in Portland, Oregon, it's nice to see someone else doing it. And lastly, from Albert Hawthorne, he exclaims, "I'm a film trooper too." Scott's enthusiasm is undeniable. He truly wants to solve the riddle of how to make a career out of filmmaking for the uber indie. He's codified every aspect of it, makes it very clear what the task is, and provides ways to make actual money from it. Many thanks, kudos. I can't even speak English. The podcast gives out a ton of info, but I'm glad to have bought his book for even more information. There you go. So I just want to thank everybody for that. And if you are interested in leaving a ratings and review on iTunes or subscribing to the YouTube channel, all you have to do is just head on over to these links real quick. Here we go. Let's see here. Oh, there you go. There's a little, you just go to filmtrooper.com/iTunes to leave a ratings review in iTunes, or filmtrooper.com/YouTube to subscribe if that's what you normally see on these Film Marketing Fridays. Okay, so let's just get right into it. Look at this. We've got a very hopeful, I call it the hopeful dreaming 40-year-old virgin, but we'll use his picture, Steve Carell's picture instead, to sort of sum up the feelings that a lot of us filmmakers have. And that is, we usually ask ourselves, or we tell ourselves this, maybe if I make something great, I'll be discovered. That's our thinking as filmmakers. Maybe if I make something great, I will be discovered. Sometimes we think like, I hate thinking about marketing. I just want to make movies. So, that's why nobody wants to do marketing. You just want to make something, be discovered, and somebody else take care of it. And you tell yourself that I'm special. At least your mom might think so, right? We all do. And then my movie's better than that, guys. Why am I not famous? So these are sort of the truths that most filmmakers have at one point or another that they find themselves in. And all this stuff basically sums up to get to this place where the topic of today's Film Marketing Friday is basically F marketing. For those of you who can see it, it doesn't quite say F. It says F***CK. And today I'm joined by guest filmmaker Martin Blasek, all the way down in Los Angeles, where the Mecca is. And let's see here. Let's see here. How do I unmute you? I see you, Martin. I can see you. And for some reason, I don't know why. I'm trying to. Can you try to unmute yourself? Oh, great. It didn't work. I thought I had something. Okay, I got an idea, Martin. It's totally, this is what happens with Google Live Hangout Air. Go ahead and disconnect and come back on. And for some reason, I think when I unmuted you, or I muted you, it won't let me unmute you for some reason. Oh, wait. So yeah, come on back on, and then I will we'll talk a bit more about that. If you can hear me, Martin, just go ahead and do that. So Martin reached out to me, and he's got a lot of different projects, and he's working with a very talented actress, and has sent me a lot of different questions that we're going to address today. which I sort of summed up the theme today, which is F marketing. And there's a reason behind all that stuff. So I hope that Martin comes back. And, you know, what's interesting is Martin's actually in Los Angeles driving around on his phone. And the great thing about technology is that he's able to do it with an iPhone, just driving around, doing what he needs to do. You know, there you go. Hey,
Aha.
there you are.
And I hear myself.
I hear you. Then I see you. Okay. You are
Truly.
driving in LA and you're joining us. And this is Martin Vlasic. So
How do you do?
how do you do? I'm sorry about that. For some reason, I thought I was going to be able to unmute you, and it didn't work out that way. Some things about the technology. But here you are. Why don't you give us a little rundown of who you are and what kind of work you're doing in Los Angeles? And
Well, first off, I have a confession because I am Albert Hawthorne. Who that's my pseudonym on iTunes. So those were in fact my feelings about what you're doing, and so that's me.
That is awesome. I love the pseudonym. I gotta get one.
Well, it's my porn star name actually,
Yeah.
because my doggy was Albert, and I grew up on Hawthorne, so I am Albert
Oh my
Hawthorne.
God. I think mine would be Alexander Ackerman.
I like it. I like it. Hey, the quick skinny on me is I'm a longtime songwriter, composer, music producer here in Los Angeles. A lot of placements in TV film over the years. You know, a lot of like kind of bass hit kind of stuff. Biggies for me is I wrote a song with Matthew McConaughey in Magic Mike, which he
Oh.
drums and sings on there, called Ladies of Tampa.
Oh yeah.
Lindsay Lohan sang a song of mine on camera in Teenage Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. So I come from a music side of things, but I also, you know, write scripts, and I am ready to make movies. My wife is an actress, and so we're, you know, confronting, you know, what kind of movie do we make? Because it's a huge commitment, and between studio gigs, you know, we're both freelancers. There's these longer periods than people think there are where you're not doing a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than go through the process of you know, try and build investors, because sometimes you spend 2 years building up this consortium of investors to get your project to work. I also want to do that, but then why not with resource filmmaking?
Yeah.
Turn, you know, I've got some ideas, and some are further written than others, using just what we got, our place, our things, our people who we can use. And so, you know, we're actively ready to start knocking stuff out. You know, got the gear, you know, went and studied up on what camera to get to be 4K ready, and Panasonic GH4s where I went. But that's a short story on me.
So nice. So you have this background, creative background. You're in the mecca of Hollywood, and you're just like, okay, well, how do we solve this marketing problem, or like let's get that sort of maybe addressed, so I have more clarity of basically what projects we can work on in between those freelance gigs that come through. And I know that the email exchange that we've had, I totally understand this. We'll get into this later about, it's basically the creative filmmakers, you know, curse, or anybody who's creative. There's a curse to it because you have so many things you want to make. And so we'll get into that here. Cool.
I do suffer from too many idea-itis.
I think a lot of us do. So let's see if we can help people get focused here. So I'm going to jump back into the slide presentation real quick. Hey, Martin, I don't know if there's a way that you're able to mute yourself. Is there an option on your phone, or is that way when we don't hear the background of the cars, and then all of a sudden when you do want to say something, just go ahead and unmute it?
Let's try. Let me just close my windows here too. That'll help a little.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I love it. So I'm going to get into your first question.
That should help a little.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to get into your first question. You basically asked, like, are there any positive promotional aspects to an unknown star? And is there any, or is there some way to spin that as a plus? I think sometimes the answer in your question is the answer is in your actual question when you say star, because stars are, they're a known commodity. So if you don't have like the cachet of what we perceive as stars, then how can you spin this, promoting wise, to take advantage of your project? Well, One of my favorites quotes is from Zig Ziglar. He's a famous salesman, and he has always said that every sale has 5 basic obstacles: no need, no money, no hurry, no desire, no trust. So really, whenever the professionals or all the experts talk about you need a name star, what they're talking about is trust. That's the only aspect when it comes to sales. When a distribution company is taking on a project, you got to make their job easier, which is why they want movie stars. They want name stars. And really what they're asking, again, if you look back at the 5 obstacles of every sale, doesn't matter what you're selling, these are the 5 obstacles that all customers have in their mind. If they have no trust, they may not buy your film, or they probably won't, which is what movie stars or name stars provide to the film industry, is sort of a name brand, so that if I'm clicking through iTunes or something like that, I can have an opportunity to go, oh, I like that particular actor's work. I wonder what they're doing. That is a form of trust. So understanding that basic parameters of sales, we can go into something like this. This t-shirt says, "We are all famous to a few people." And this is from a filmmaker, writer in Los Angeles as well, Joe Wilson. He creates a web series called Vampire Mob, and you can look more on what he's doing at vampiremob.com. But I've always loved this t-shirt that he created as part of his crowdfunding campaigns, as part of his community. It's just this concept of like, you know what, we are all famous to a few people. And then that's what you want to embrace. So there's something called vanity metrics versus engagement metrics. And the concept here is that, I'll stop here. So vanity versus engagement. So I'll go back to my fat head real quick. So we see a lot of times that somebody might have a ton of Facebook likes or a ton of Twitter followers, or maybe they do pretty well in the IMDb rating, but those only matter to certain people. And somebody who focuses on the metrics or the vanity metrics of getting so many of those numbers sometimes don't necessarily look at the engagement metrics, meaning that you may not necessarily need a large number of followers to have higher engagement. It happens all the time. Somebody might have like 10,000 Twitter followers, but probably couldn't sell one thing to anybody on that Twitter follower, but somebody, meaning like anybody following them on Twitter, if they try to sell something, they probably couldn't sell anything. Where somebody might have 100 people on Twitter, but that are following them, but they probably sell maybe only like to 60, 70% of those people. And that's the difference between engagement and then vanity metrics. So let me see here. I see that you're driving, Martin, but can you hear me? Okay, good. So let's see. When I'm going to talk to you about, when I look at your guys' situation, as your wife is, working in the industry and, doing the rounds as an actress, the auditions, and she has a small Twitter following, and the thing is about this, like, let's just talk about Twitter. She might say have 1,000 people that follow her. Those are potentially 1,000 real people. Like, if you can imagine, if you had 1,000 of those people in a room, that's pretty significant. So the tool with Twitter, she's has the opportunity to actually engage with them. If they're following her and she's following them back, she can direct message them. She can shout to them out on Twitter by just asking comments or questions or commenting on tweets that they're delivering. That engagement versus a vanity metric allows to build that, the t-shirts we just saw, that we're all famous to a few people, So if she can be famous to those few people, that could build the audience loyalty to what projects you guys are working on next. And so we'll get into that next here in terms of why that means, like, why you don't necessarily need like all the numbers. You don't need like a huge following sometimes. You just need to have really good engagement metrics. So I'm going to throw back onto the slide share real quick. Those are watching live, we'll see a little black screen. Let's see here. If you have any questions, Martin, just chime in again. Like if you get settled in your car, and just unmute yourself and then go ahead and ask. So let's look at the YouTube generation. So YouTube generation has those who are doing very well on YouTube, have a high engagement rate, and just recently, I think just this past weekend was the VidCon down in Los Angeles. This huge convention for basically all YouTubers, just the influencers and people wanting to meet their superstars on YouTube, or they have their own channel. I haven't had a chance to make it down there yet, but it just looks amazing. Everything that I read about it and friends that do go down there. So YouTube has the YouTube generation. It doesn't have to be YouTube. It could be Tumblr, Instagram, any social media platforms. But the overall purpose of engagement is that there's a new generation that is feeling more like the influencers or the people that have a presence on any of these social media platforms are the tools allow them to have this sort of personal engagement with an audience. And again, they don't need to have 10,000 followers. Yes, the superstars do. They have 10,000, a million followers, that kind of stuff. But the average Joe, could easily probably pick up 1,000 people following them. And whether or not they are all connected in the same, mindset, that remains to be seen. But it wouldn't take that long to necessarily, build up 1,000 people online, by just following this simple metrics of you follow them, they follow you, you engage in some sort of conversation within that medium, and then, you go from there. That's working in the small numbers, but you're working on high turnaround and engagement. So that's what we can learn from the YouTube generation. Your next question was, and this all kind of ties back because you had asked, with most Uber indie films only earning about $1,000 online, what is the fastest turnaround for the solo filmmaker to earn a 50,000 budget? Let me say that question again. What is the fastest turnaround for the solo filmmaker to earn a $50,000 budget back? So this is probably where a lot of filmmakers are in this same boat, which is like, wait, you're saying that most Uber independent films are only generating about $1,000 online. And if my budget was $50,000, how am I going to get that money back? So to explain where this $1,000 comes in, this is what I gave this little analogy last week about VOD sales projection numbers, but it's worth repeating again because I think it's just a simple concept to grasp. If we look at a Starbucks coffee, we all agree it's like a $4 coffee, right? It's on average. People are spending $4 for a Starbucks coffee. The only difference is like Starbucks coffee has a addictive ingredient inside its product. So it forces people to come back. And so Starbucks has to sell a lot of coffees, and they're able to sell a lot of coffees. So that's a high volume of transactions that are needed to, make that empire the way it is. So if we look at digital film, basically a digital film product selling online, the average price point is also $4. So we're all just selling coffees. The only difference is our film product costs us like maybe $50,000 to make or $25,000 to make. So if we rely just selling it at a $4 price point, we're going to need to sell a lot of units, have a lot of transactions to make our $25,000, $50,000 budget back. So here's another illustration to better understand the numbers. So if your film budget is $25,000, then $25,000 divided by $4 of what you would rent it or sell it online for, you would need over 6,000 transactions to make your $25,000 back. So the average inbound marketing rate, meaning the conversion rate of somebody landing on your site or the impressions they get of your product, is usually about a 1 to 3% conversion rate. That means that you would need to generate about over 625,000 to over 1.8 million trailer views. Those are what trailer views, at least, gives you an example of media impressions that a consumer, after they've seen it so many times or has that many views or people have seen it because of interest or word of mouth, only 1 to 3% will actually make the effort to buy or purchase or buy or rent your film. So if you look at that, that's a lot of trailer views that need to be made just to make $25,000 back. So let's imagine if your film that so I can go back here. So that's where the numbers come from. So if you're looking at this, most films are averaging about earning about $1,000 to $2,500 online. And when I say most films, I'll go back to my fat head real quick. Um, when I say that is because this is the uber independent filmmaker. This is the person that is like you and I, just making something and putting it up online. We don't have a distribution deal. We don't have any named actors. There's probably not a huge list. We don't have a following. This is just straight up. I've made something, I put it up online, and now I'm selling it on various platforms: Vimeo on demand, VHX, Distrify, whatever it is. If you're able even to get it on iTunes, the numbers that I've seen for films that don't have all those elements in place, don't have a name star, don't have formal distribution, don't have a real strong genre, the returns online, they're only earning about anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 to $5,000 a film. So it's crazy to think that you're going to make your money back if your budget was $25,000, $50,000, $250,000. So let's go over this graphic again. So you can see that. Okay, great. So that's where the number comes from, and that's where the question that Martin had asked, which is like, if most films are earning about $1,000 online from direct sales, then how do we make the $50,000 budget back? Yeah. So I'm sorry. Here's the metric again. So if most films are generating, say if your film is generating about 10,000 to 25,000 trailer views, and the average inbound marketing rate is at 1 to 3%, then you're probably generating about 300 to 750 transactions, at a time. Obviously, 300 to 750 transactions times an average price of $4. That's where the 1,200 or 1,000 to 3,000, that range between $1,000 and $5,000 per film, that's where this stuff is coming in. So you can really look at the numbers like, okay, yeah, so just because you have 25,000 trailer views does not mean that 25,000 people are going to pay for your film. Only about 1 to 3% of that are. And if you're only selling your film at a $4 price point, that's why you're only averaging these low numbers of $1,000 to $3,000. So what is the solution? Again, this is from last week's presentation, but we can expound upon a little bit more. Experts always say you got to do a hybrid distribution. And you do hybrid distributions through theatrical events. Either you're using cable video on demand, you're maybe garnering TV deals, or you have foreign distribution, or then eventually you're using electronic sell-through, EST. And for those of you, just to clarify, EST is straight up digital downloads. You putting up something online and somebody either paying for the streaming of it or downloading it directly. So this hybrid distribution and the things that I have in asterisk still call for formal distribution and formal deals in place. And so for the uber independent filmmaker, a lot of stuff doesn't work. The hybrid distribution plan doesn't work if you don't have certain things in place. So that's why you can cross those out. You can do your own theatrical event through Tug or Gather. So the uber independent filmmaker can still work off theatrical events and EST, digital downloads. You're most likely not going to get a cable video on demand deal. You're probably not going to get a TV deal. You're probably not going to get a foreign distribution deal if you don't have all those things in place: named star, a formal distribution deal, and so on. So the real solution for us uber independent filmmakers is, one, you either got to make your movie really, really cheap, like extreme micro budgets, or you have to have a high volume of impressions. So a lot of trailer views or a lot of people seeing what you're doing. Or you can just do something different. So we look at this $4 coffee and our $4 digital download. What happened if we can turn that digital download into $100? So now makes a whole big difference, because if we're not selling a $4 coffee, but we're selling a $100 film product, what is that $100 film product? And then that's the bigger question is, well, then how would I make my $50,000 back if I'm selling a $100 product? Well, let's take a look. Your film is an advertisement. That's what I've come to understand from everything that I've studied and that I've analyzed, which is basically, you know what, if we approach our films as advertisements, we can advertise something of much more value of $100 to make this work for us as Uber independent filmmakers. So let's take a look at this chart again, where I showed you the average trailer views for the Uber independent filmmaker. Might be making get 10,000, 25,000 trailer views, getting 1 to 3% average inbound marketing rate. So they're only garnering 300 and 7,500 or 750 transactions. If you're only garnering about 300 to 750 transactions, let's just put it right in the middle. Say the average is like 500 transactions. If that's what the average is, then can you imagine if you look down below here, if all of a sudden you change the price point from $4 to $100? So now look at the numbers here. So you've got 300 transactions times $100. That's $30,000. And hey, there you go. Hey, Martin.
Yeah, I'm back on.
Okay, cool. There you are. So I just want to make sure you're good.
Totally good. And I'm with you the whole time.
Okay. And then I want to, if you're able to garner 750 transactions at $100 price point, you're making like $75,000. So the goal is to try to get your film product to that $100 price point and not the $4 price point. And the way we do that is, again, your film is an advertisement. So let's take a look at this graph here, this chart. You've probably seen this almost every website you might have gone to that you needed to buy a product, right? If you look at it, there's on one side, they offer like a low price point of like $10, something in the middle for $97, and something like the premium package at $9.97. So with your film being an advertisement, you could sell your film for anywhere from $5 to $10 on the left-hand side, or you can upsell it and use your film to advertise something more expensive at a $97, $100 price point, and then also offer something so outlandishly more expensive, maybe like one-on-one access to you on or something like a personal coaching session, a consulting session, or in terms of filmmaking, there's things like that. Oh, hey, Martin.
Yeah.
Sorry, just real quick. I don't know if you could put yourself on mute real quick, just because we could hear the tripod, I think, banging. Just so that until you get yourself settled, then you can unmute. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if your tool out. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Very cool. Oops. Here we go. We'll go back. So to look at this module again, if your film is an advertisement, you could sell it at the lowest price point, again, $5, $10, or you can upsell it to use it as an advertisement to sell something at the $100 value, or also sell something at almost $1,000 value. Sometimes the $1,000 value, when you see these things broken up, the $1,000 price point is only really used what they call like an anchor price, is to make the middle price, the middle option, more desirable. Because if you took away the one on the right that says, buy the one-on-one session for $9.97 for almost $1,000, if you took that away and all you saw was the film and the modules, you would look at it like, I don't want to spend $100. I'm just going to buy the $10 price point. But because there's a third price that's being displayed to you, the $1,000 price point that's being displayed to you, now the middle price point looks more attractive. And that's done on purpose for a lot of people running sales, is to show this high price point product. Now, once in a while, on a blue moon, a very small percentage of people will actually pay for that high-end, $1,000 offering. So in Martin's case and his wife's case, maybe there could be this like pay $1,000 and have, like if his wife's the movie star or the star of the film or something like that, there maybe could be like a private like performance of them singing or whatever that their talents are. Somebody hires, Martin and his wife to perform live at some place for, $1,000. Those are things that are in your wheelhouse, Martin, that you could actually use, that you can offer for that $1,000 price point, that could be in conjunction with your film. So, before you get started, I saw I don't know if you can turn your camera, because you're vertical on us. So you might look normal. Now you're upside down.
Aye. Upside down?
Now you're turned the other way. Turn like you're still there. You're upside down. Oh, one more. I don't know if you could turn it one more time.
Every time I turn it, it flips. Maybe I better log out and log back in real quick.
Okay, do that.
Yeah.
It's too funny. We'll be here. Okay. So anyhow, so if I get back into that, I will get back to my face. So when I get into this thing about film being an advertisement, for those of you who've been following me know what I gathered from understanding of if we look at it from an outside perspective, Hollywood is not in the film business anyway. And so neither should the uber independent filmmaker be. They need to be, you look good, Martin. So I was going to say, I was letting people know that you probably heard me say this before, but Hollywood is not in the film business. They are in the business of license exploitation. And
Which
so
is a
yeah,
heck of a thing to wrap your head around, because then you'd have to think, well, what am I advertising?
exactly. Yeah. So, and here's something funny because most people we know that are working in freelance, once in a while they actually make a film, but most of the time they're making their money because they're being hired by an ad agency needs to like make a commercial, and they hire a production company, and the production company hires a director, a DP, musician, whatever it might be. Like all these people are making their money because a company that has a product or a service that's worth more needs the services of Hollywood or experts throughout the world to be able to make film content or commercials to drive sales to their product. So majority of the stuff we do. So the movies, we're meant to think that the movies are a product. They are to some extent. But if you really step back and look at the reason why Hollywood needs to control a license, an IP license, is because they need to be able to exploit that license over and over again in many different formats. And I always use George Lucas as the poster boy for this because he's the first one to tell you that all the money's in the action figures. And if we, either one of us, own the Star Wars license, you have to ask yourself, what would you do with it? you would do exactly the same thing he would have done with it, which is sold it to Disney. And what did Disney do? As soon as they got that license, they're like, we own the license to Star Wars. What do you think we're going to do with it? We're not going to sit on it. We're going to make another movie. We're going to make, Netflix series, cartoons, toys, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry, I bumped the mic, all over the place. So the benefit is the uber independent filmmaker has the opportunity to create something from nothing and control that license. As long as they are viewing it as like, okay, I'm going to make a film based off this world that I created, but the film is going to be, it's going to be a product, but it's going to be a low-end product because that's the market. That's the demand of the market says, I'm only willing to spend 99 cents, $4, $5, $10 on a film. So I need to make up the capital by using it to advertise something more expensive, which is why I'll bring back to this, this chart here real quick. Just that. It's like you can see like, oh, I could see where a film could be sold for $10, but then it's advertising something at the $100 price point and maybe 99, almost $1,000 price point. Now, let me show you something that's already happening on a different scale. This is a documentary called Stripped. It's a documentary about the old Sunday morning comics or something, the cartoon artists and comics. So this is on VHX. They use VHX to sell this landing page, but you can buy this deluxe edition of their documentary film for $20. That's normal, right? That's like a price point we're able to see. But if you scroll down this, they have this stripped super awesome deluxe edition where they're selling for $65. So that's closer to the $100 price point. And the great thing about VHX using this service is that they allow for this opportunity to bundle. And they are the first ones to tell you that filmmakers have got to bundle. And what I just showed you was how to build a $100 bundle or $1,000 bundle. And so there's all these different options here that are greater than the $4, $5, $10 sale of the film. Now, if you scroll down, they actually even broke it up because this was a particular film that interviewed, all these famous cartoon, newspaper comic book artists and writers. So if you want to learn about the creative Garfield, Jim Davis, you can buy just his interview alone for $3. So these documentary filmmakers were able to break up individually all these great interviews of everybody that they had to talk to for the making of the film. So this is a way that they're exploiting the license that they created. Other ways to diversify the content that they created. Or you can put it all together. One nice big price is $65. You can see if they had people that were loyal to what they were doing, a really great audience engagement. A large percentage of them probably bought it for $65. So now if we go back and think about the metrics of an average of 300 to say like 1,000 transactions for an Uber independent film, what's 1,000 times $65? You're like almost $65,000. So that's one way to get your $50,000 back. So let me see what I have on my slide here next. So before I get started the next section, because this is kind of ties in, Martin, to the whole theme of today's show, which is F marketing. That's the next section. I just want to make sure that if you had any questions about anything that I've kind of presented so far that might help you, because like your first question is like, well, how do I leverage Natasha's, work? I mean, like I saw that she's like, say she has 1,000 Twitter followers. She has an opportunity to use her winning personality, like her charisma, to win over people on Twitter, one person at a time through engagement. So you really want to focus on engagement metrics and not vanity metrics. Like, don't worry about, whether or not you have 1,000, 10,000, 65,000. They're real people behind those numbers. So if you can get to that place where you're engaging with them. And I'm thinking too, with her talents, in her charisma coming off in camera, she can just pick up a phone or something, and you're in part of your making of your film, just do quick highlights so that those are just shot out on Instagram or Twitter or on your email list. So people get to see these funny bits of who she is. And, obviously you married her. So there's something about her that made you fall in love with her. So I think it's one of those things you have to show that aspect to her, to the fan base, so let them fall in love with her as well. And then that would become a very vital piece in terms of the engagement. And then that's where you can leverage the promotion of that, so.
You're just talking about like some, just some quick shorty videos, custom for Twitter and Instagram, that kind of stuff, using their 6-second or their 15-second videos kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is a great idea.
You know what? I'm going to be honest. My daughter and I, there's some people on Vine that are hilarious. There's the Bat Dad on Vine. He wears his Batman mask and he just films himself like just the corner of his face. And it's always his kids behind him. And he's always doing like, hey, and he scares the crap out of his wife and his kids. But he has all those funny bits. They're all 6 seconds. Thomas Sanders is another fan, Vine superstar that we love. But there's something, the small bit of work that I saw Natasha doing, I could see this is a platform that she could use that wouldn't take up much of what you're doing. Just it's on your phone, boom. It's just a matter of whether or not that's what you feel comfortable with, whether or not that's what you want to do, but it's one of those things that doesn't hurt just to try for a little bit to see whether or not you like it or not, because there's so much social media noise anyway. Like, you could try something and nobody knows about it.
I know, right? If it doesn't, I had a thing I did a couple years back where I called them musicals, because I would write a song a week based on the news, attempting to be humorous. I made it through 7 weeks before I kind of let it peter out. Who knows? Maybe if I kept going, I could have built up traffic, but it didn't work. Nobody cares. Nobody's holding it against me.
Yeah. Here's the thing. You actually hit the nail on the head, which is like the ways a lot of this stuff works is consistency. When we're talking about engagement, this is a form of engagement. This creation of Film Marketing Fridays was, I was watching these live Google Hangout on Air sessions, which I thought was fascinating. That you and I live in totally different cities. We haven't met in person, but we're able to communicate on social media, communicate on email. And now we're here talking face to face. But the conversations we're having could have a lot of value.
Oh yeah. And honestly, I mean, think of how great today is. Today's times is even a last minute audition didn't stop me from, being here and participating. So
yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. So this is to me, for me, Film Trooper, this is a form of audience engagement because it took me a while, but I really enjoy this part. Like I enjoy meeting new filmmakers like yourself, or just to have this conversation to together, can we knock down the barriers or just answer these questions that I think collectively feel like nobody's answering for us, you know?
Oh yeah, honestly, because I'll go to the classes and I'm not totally dumb, so I try and keep up and read the blogs and read the film specific and all that, and everything's going for the traditional path in one form or another. Where if it's not a studio picture, you're gonna either try and sell foreign, or you're gonna get a coalition of investor, or go to the film festivals and try to pick up distribution that way. And honestly, you're the only person I know who's like focused on stuff we can do that's within our own power to actually not depend on other people, but to create our own, take it and create it our own brand, because they'll have a brand, but do something with it to generate something useful and possible self-sufficiency. And I know that a video on demand thing is a tough deal. I have a friend who's got 2 movies up there, and she doesn't have that many views, even though her work is fine. But it's like cracking this code. And honestly, this is new to me. And since I've read your book, I'm also reading Launch, which is I know what book that you'd read. And it's like it does open up your brain channels, because I've been a creator my whole life, and but if we create it, it's like, what good is it unless we get it out there to an audience of some kind? And so this is like a very specific but potentially liberating way to think about our product, so that we can have our audiences there for us on the next one, hopefully, as well too. And so the code, I think, here is because I had heard your previous interview with the person who did so well with his documentary.
Yeah.
And hearing about these comic books, I hear when it's like real life stuff, it seems like a natural upsell to like have more material on that kind of thing. And the real code is the real brain teaser is how to make this real.
Oh no, I lost him. I lost him. Okay. I think he knows where we're going. Oh, there he goes.
Yeah, sorry about that. The real right in the important part. The real thing is like how to make this work on, and we want to make narratives, and how to have that where the film being an advertisement for something else, but yet we still want to make the film, to have something that works, in a win-win, like a great product that people would want to spend that $100 for, that's actually attractive and also beneficial. And then of course I do like the bigger upsell where it's like a personal appearance, and that seems like a no-brainer for filmmakers. Okay, you get we'll come speak at your event or something like that. So this is, dude, I think you have identified where the rubber hits the road on this, and there's a whole new industry of, if people think right, something could open up here. And so I don't know. I have to say thank you for forging where no one's really forged.
Oh, thanks. I've seen there are people I do follow. I know, like, I'm friends with Jason Brubaker of filmmakingstuff.com.
I went to a seminar of his, and I know him.
Yeah, great. So it's like there's I just was on a podcast with for Film Thrive, a guy out in North Carolina, Errol. I can't pronounce his last name, Avianlino, I think it is, but he's on the same path too. Like there's a lot of people it's neat because what we're just doing is applying online business and online marketing strategies, but how do we fit it into the filmmaking world? And so all I'm trying to do is curate and connect the dots. But there's one aspect that seems to get missed with a lot of like experts that are in the business part of it or the marketing part of it, that sometimes they miss the creative reason of why we're doing this. Let me show you that, because this sums up perfectly with like having too many things to think about, that curse of like, oh my God, like what do I work on? So we'll get into that section right here, which is the filmmaker's curse. So the filmmaker's curse is that we've just got too many things to think of. There's so many things that we want to do. And that's that's the whole theme of this show is for today's session is when you have this filmmaker's curse, then you're just feeling like, oh my God, I just want to make something. I don't want to be bogged down about whether or not it's for an audience, what market it's going to be for. And that's where you get frustrated and you're just like, well, F marketing, like F it all. Like, cause you just want to be a creator. So there's a bigger question to that is to, if you ever find yourself in that boat where you can't focus, you can't quite know what the next steps are. And if you feel like you're selling out because you know, like, you know what, I want to do this really experimental film, but I know there's not a market to it. Well, you don't know unless you take a deep breath and really ask a deeper question, which is, who do you want to serve? Like, start with that question. Like they always say, like, got to know your audience, find your audience. I say, let's take a deep breath and just ask yourselves, who do you want to serve? Now, with that said, I know that Film Trooper is designed to be an educational platform. It is designed to be a platform to have discussion. So I have found myself really enjoying meeting filmmakers like yourself, but I also found that I'm meeting filmmakers that have gone through the rigmarole, or like they've gone through the process, like they've gone through the pain of making several films and not seeing the results they want. I don't see a lot of young people coming through Film Trooper. I don't see a lot of people, that are new to filmmaking. The audience that I'm finding that is specific to Film Troopers, people have gone through the pain, and then they're asking some deeper questions. Most people that are starting out, or they're younger, or maybe just starting out, they're part of just excited about the filmmaking process. That like they're still learning the filmmaking process. They're still learning what cameras to use, or they enjoy the conversation of the latest, camera gear stuff.
I need to get them to work on my stuff for free before they learn.
So what I come to identify, that I understand that this is the people that I'm serving, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it because I'm there with everybody else. It's like I've went to film school, and I also studied and produced things. And, I made my film. I worked at Sony PlayStation making movies for a big corporation. So I understand that process, the creative process, and thinking that isn't there a system in place? Like, if I make something, isn't this what's supposed to be the next steps? When that doesn't happen, what are the other avenues? And so that's where I've decided for Film Trooper, who I've become comfortable with, who I want to serve, is filmmakers who have gone through the pain. And I'm trying to help them say, you know what, don't worry about it. I think there's a way. Like, I don't know, I'm early on this, but I feel like I'm like I said, I'm on to something that is beginning to make sense, because I'm beginning to see signs from other filmmakers that it's doable. Now we just need to have like a little bit more semblance of a system in place that allows people so that they can not be so stressed out about, like, well, how I'm going to make my money back, or how I'm going to, raise the money, or like, how do I know if this will get picked up? You just let all that stuff go, let it all go. And you can be like, let me be the artist. But I need to have an audience. Like, I need to know not just a audience, but I need to serve an audience. I need to be confident in my abilities as an artist to ask a simple question of an existing audience to say, what kind of cool shit can I make for you? So that's the curse. Let me go back. Let's see the next slide here. What do I got next? Oh yeah, this is it. Here's a little trick, something I don't know, but it's something to really think about. Because I've actually had this question asked to me by some other filmmakers as well. So we have this chart here for those who've seen it, where I was mentioning that the average trailer views for the uber independent filmmaker that doesn't have a distribution deal, no name stars, maybe no strong genre, it's just the ability to make something and put it up online, is maybe an average of 10,000, 25,000 trailer views. It might also be impression views. Like, if you might have a YouTube video that might get a couple thousand views. Well, again, the average inbound marketing rate is that 1 to 3% of people actually seeing what you're offering are actually going to do something, or actually going to buy something, if you have some sort of call to action in place with your trailer or with your YouTube videos or your one-offs. As long as they're always giving some sort of call to action at the end of it that tells people what you want them to do. Sign up for the email list, or buy the video, or rent the video. Only 1 to 3% are actually going to do that. So the average transactions, again, or like 500, 500 to 750 to 1,000 transactions. That is real world numbers. Those are doable numbers for the Uber independent. So now let's look at the top number. If we look at like, if the average is around 25,000 trailer views, let's say you're just starting from scratch, you have nothing. Well, one thing to think about is like, you know what happened if I can get in front of 25,000 engaged people, engaged audience? So the reason why I'm saying that is like, if the question is like, how do I make my $50,000 budget back? And like, and also who do I make my film for? Instead of trying to build from scratch an audience, why don't we take and ask the question of like, what audience already exists out there that has 25,000 engaged people already, and then you have to ask yourself that bigger question, which is, well, who do I serve? Because you just don't want to do it. If you're doing it for money reasons, you're going to feel completely empty afterwards. It's just not going to be worth it.
That's a very, very, very important point. And that's one of the things I enjoyed about reading your book. It's not talking about like, give me. It's talking about it being a win-win for everybody. And it is true. You're going to feel empty if you just go chasing it for money. Because, I've tried a couple things where, I'll try this because it's hot. It peters out. It does.
Yeah. And like, I've been doing Film Marketing Fridays for a year now. And the one thing that tells me that I'm on the right track of what I'm doing is because I can't believe it's been a year. I've actually enjoyed the process in the year. I've kind of dabbled with other forms of media or social media platforms because I'm trying to figure out what works best for me to communicate these ideas. So this format, it being a long format, this conversation format, I really enjoy. So what I'm getting at is I need to figure out the next step for, say, like maybe my next film or this film or your film or whatever your film might be. Like you have to explore what you think that you already like doing. And then you have to also enjoy the people you're talking to. I'll be honest with you, I was a little nervous jumping into the world of independent film because there were so many cynics and like it's scared because there's like a lot of people that can just be really brash and trollish and like, but once you put yourself out there and you realize a lot of good people out there, a lot of people that want to connect and answer the same questions, that actually outweighs all the trolls or the messages that I get that are negative, so it's a good thing because it's like, okay, that fuels you to keep going. So to help clarify the filmmaker's curse for you, it's like, and not get so bogged down by so much information about business and marketing. Because believe me, I eat this stuff up all the time. I'm reading, I'm listening, I'm studying, I'm trying to apply. And I have moments all the time, just like I have to just take a walk because my brain is just fried. I can't think of like, well, what are my next steps? And, the creation of the Cube was in response to all that. I was so frustrated because I was trying to make a film for the market, for the American film market. I was trying to make something that the market would want. And nothing that I was creating, I had any heart in it because I felt like I was just making it for the market as opposed to sometimes I totally get it. Sometimes an artist, you just got to take a deep breath and go, F marketing, what can I just do right now that I feel most compelled about? It might be a thing that doesn't even make sense or is not even the right thing to do. There's that song by One Republic, you being a musician. There's that song they have called Counting Stars. It's one of their hit songs.
Yep.
And the premise of that song is like basically him expressing his stress and angst to his wife about not making it. This is like before they blew up a couple of years ago. He was a struggling musician. In the lyrics of that song, they had something to the effect of like, everything that I do that I know is right feels wrong. And everything that I do that is supposed to be wrong feels right. The concept of like, why do I keep doing this? Like when I'm doing what everybody tells me to do, I'm supposed to do the right thing. It just doesn't feel right. But when I do the thing that makes it feel right to me, or what people think that wrong on the outside, like that's a wrong decision. You shouldn't be, pursuing this artistic thing that's going nowhere. That's when he felt the most alive and felt right. So that's something that, that I get kind of bugged out about when I see some, a lot of stuff on the blogosphere about experts telling filmmakers, you got to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, sometimes you just don't, the creative process is not that way. The creative process can be really messy, and you don't know what is the calling for each person. And that can't be ignored. So I feel like wherever you are right now, to help with your focus, is just know there's probably going to be an audience. If you are driven by it for whatever reason that you want to create. I know you got a film, you got a web series, you got tons of things you want to do.
Tons. Yeah. Too much.
So just take a nice deep breath and going, what can I do realistically in X amount of months with the stuff that we already have? That doesn't matter. Don't even worry about building, don't even worry about building an audience. Like all the experts will tell you, like, even, I understand why to build an audience, but really is, you might have an audience already that know who you are. Just start there and share with them your love for whatever that you're creating. And then when it's all finished, when I was trying to show you this concept of, like, maybe when you're finished, you can look towards an audience that's already engaged, meaning, like, maybe there's a bunch of enthusiasts about 80s, synth songs or something. I'm just putting something together. Like, people.
Actually, it's not a bad connection there.
Okay, so so some people, like, are fascinated by, or the people are talking or sharing bits of music of that era. So you're not even involved with this, but you're watching because you're interested, because maybe that's something you're interested in. But you see there's already 10,000 engaged people in a community about this. There's already a leader or somebody who's already talking about it, or that has already amassed a large following, that is the exact audience that you wish that you could connect with, right? So the thing is, for you, is to see what you create, can that be considered added value to this already existing audience for either this influencer or this community. So the concept here is, like, if you need to get 25,000 to 100,000 impressions in / trailer views, can you find people that are already engaging in that conversation already? So that way you don't have to build from scratch. The idea is, like, so from zero, you're like, oh, wait a minute, there's already 100,000 people talking about this specific topic that they're really raving fans about it. So if all of a sudden I make a trailer that creates added value to the discussion that they're already having, I could have potentially already immediately have 100,000 views. And within those 100,000 views, you could potentially have a call to action that leads you back to the sale of your film. So now we're beginning to sort of what they call growth hacking in the startup world. It's like Tim Ferriss is, the poster boy for this, of the 4-hour work week. His whole concept was, this book was like, can you do the same amount of things you're doing at 40 hours, 80 hours, 100 hours a week, but only do it 4 hours? Because he got into this whole concept about systemizing, like optimizing, like, why should I use all my hours doing the same amount of work that I can get done in a half hour? So there's a concept that we could use as filmmakers. You're not necessarily hijacking somebody's audience. You're adding value. You're serving that audience. But maybe you don't have to build the audience from scratch. Maybe all the experts that say, like, oh, you need to start early, you need to build your audience, you need to collect that audience. I'm saying that if you're in a bind, and you're trying to, like, get going fast, and you're only one person, maybe you, Martin, will just take too long to build up this massive following. But you, as one person, could step back, look at an already existing audience that you actually do like, that you actually would love to be part of that community, and just ask yourself, like, with the stuff that we have, what can I create for that audience to add value to that world? And then the metrics then work in your favor, because if there's a raving community of 500,000 people, and there's an avenue for you to create stuff for that community, and say a small 1% actually digs what you're doing, the 1% that actually digs it enough that they're going to willing to pay, you might from those metrics be able to generate those 300 to 500, 1,000 transactions, as long as you put in a business system in place or a value system in place that your film is one part of the equation, but you have to create that $100 offering, $1,000 offering. And you being a musician, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that you just take a deep breath and look at what's in front of you in terms of your resources and talents that you could offer up. And you never know. Somebody just might be just enjoys what you're doing and says, I'll pay $1,000 to hang out with you and learn how to have a jam session one night. You never know. So you throw it out there.
You put it out there. You never know. You never know. Well, everyone has their own thingies, and Natasha and I, we have our own band together besides the stuff I've done on my own. So there's permutations of what we all do, and it's very, very inspiring talking to you, because sometimes we've got it right in front of our nose, and it's don't quite see it with a perspective, so I'm digging this.
The cool thing is, you don't have to, for anybody out there, it's your stuff may not even be that good. And I'm going to say that. It's okay, because it doesn't matter. It just has to be valuable. It just has to be valuable. And it also, you don't need 1 million people. There's you're looking for, again, if you look at the metrics, you're looking for 500 to 1,000 transactions. So to basically engage with 500 or 1,000 people that are invested in what you're doing, that is doable. In our lifetime, that is doable. And collectively, between you and your wife, you could already do that. Already, like I said, in Twitter, you might not have a lot of followings, but it's just the effort. It's meaning that you can't be lazy about it. If you see that there's 1,000 followers on Twitter, you got to spend time engaging with them and then sharing stuff with them or asking questions and see, whether or not they enjoy or why they even follow you in the first place or whatever it might be. And then that's just one list. And then you build your email list, because the email list is eventually your holy grail. But there's so many different ways to interact with people. But again, if you don't have that list, you might as well just participate in an already thriving community. And then, you just get the one-offs. You get the, it's if they see that you're providing value in a community, oh, these are cool videos. I love the stuff that Natasha's doing or whatever, her little videos. We love it because it's adding to the conversation. And then you might get a small percentage. And again, just metrics. You just shoot for 300 to 1,000 transactions and then figure out that $100 price point, if not more. And then before you know it, you're like, holy cow, we just did it. We pulled off $25,000, $50,000, $100,000,
If you could knock that out twice a year, 50 grand twice a year, then you could kind of keep it rolling and not depend on somebody else and still do your bigger gigs as they come along. There's a path. I love it.
Here's the cool thing too, is as soon as you make a little bit of money, if you are in the right mindset, once you see that some small aspect of it works, we're talking about even if you make a couple $100, you're like, oh, then you're going to ask yourself, well, hey, how do I make more? How do I scale this? And then it's a great thing because you're in a different perspective and a different mindset, because you're like, okay, this is doable, because you feel empowered. You feel like this can be doable. And you're being a musician. I forget the fellow's name. His name is Michael something. He teaches drums. He's one of the renowned, professional drummers that toured, in the 90s with a lot of punk bands or whatever it is, a studio drummer. But now he teaches drumming on one of the first persons on YouTube teaching drumming. But he's built a huge, educational empire where he teaches just drumming. But his thing is he loves teaching. And he says that this is the way he sees it. Because I am no more an expert than the next person. The only difference is there's a timeline. And where I am in this timeline is here, where the person starting out might be here,
It's so, that joke about running faster than the bear.
Yeah.
You know that joke, right?
Yeah. You just got to run faster than your friend.
Yes.
So the whole point is, the cool thing is you might make a little bit of money that just says that this is where you are at this part of the timeline in your journey, where you might hear people that have made $1 million, a couple million. It just means that whatever project they had, that's where they are that much further on the timeline. Like you can get there. It's just breaking that seal and wrapping your head around like, yeah, I don't need to serve everybody. I just need to serve really, really well a high value product, value price point to a small number of people. And then all of this stuff is doable.
I believe it. I mean, you have to love it, what you're going to be doing, because there's a lonely period in there between like the great idea and the inspiration and then the results, where there's that grinded out period where you're kind of on your own. So you have to love it and see the point in it enough not to flame out and let it drift off there. And that's what I love about this. There's talking about benefiting your audience, not just like getting something from them.
Yeah, and once we can get as artists sort of get out of our own way, get out of our own ego, and get out of our own heads, we have a tendency, like for instance, if I say, "Oh my God, I mean, I jam a guitar here and there, but I'm kind of a hack." But I come to you and like somebody, there's like me and many other people might go, "Hey, could you, how do you play this, or how do you make this, or that was a cool song. Like, how did you go about making that song?" All of a sudden now you're kind of like outside of your head, outside of your ego, and somebody's asking you a question, then you feel sort of obligated to answer and serve. And in the process, you are in the moment, you're flowing with it. So creatively too, making a film, sometimes you just kind of go, you know what, I have an idea that this is going to be the audience. I could do all the right business things to make it work, but you know what? I'm comfortable right now with, my wife and I and our small team. We're just going to have fun doing this because we are going to have fun doing this, and we're going to share that fun. And so all of a sudden, like you can have the wackiest story with the weirdest genre mashup, but if you are able to document the process of you guys enjoying what you're doing, then you have to step back and go, holy shit, that is probably what we're marketing. You know what I mean? You're marketing joy. You are selling joy, and nothing's more awesome than somebody just doing what they do without really caring what anybody else says, but absolutely having 100% joy in what they do, and everybody else looking on the outside going, "Oh my God, I'm envious because somebody's so comfortable with their skin, so comfortable with what they do. Just like that is what I want." And that becomes a selling point. So your film could be an advertisement for the celebration of the journey, celebration of the joy. When it's all finished, geez, the Hollywood studios have to do this all the time. Like, I don't know, what do we do with this film we just got?
Yeah, they get it. They get it. And they have to. Marketing department doesn't know anything about it in advance, I'm sure. Sometimes.
No, yeah, a distribution company acquires something. I don't know. We got something. What do we do with this? And some marketers are really good, but most of the time marketers they're used to a system. They're like, you know what? Don't make my job hard. It's like, how it is. Like, it's easier if you had a name star. It was just like a standard genre. It's kind of lazy man's marketing because
I'm on this uber indie level though, but that's one of our resources. Like, for writing our own screenplay, sometimes people complain the big studio picture, the screenplay got muddled. It's like, that's the kind of stuff that we can do without an extra cost. And these ideas of how to market, it's just a little extra brain juice to find that winning formula.
Yeah. It's interesting you said the writing process, like whatever, like to help you focus on your next project, like just have a wonderful Friday night out with your wife or something, just to say, what do we really want to do? Don't even worry about the audience or market. And then, write it or do some boards or do some quick video tests. And then when you sit back, then like periodically have a check-in to say, could this be marketed someplace? And like, don't let it take over your life, but just kind of keep in the back of your mind. Like, I wonder how this could be marketed, maybe, maybe not, but if those decisions keep driving your creative decisions and you feel like it's a sellout, then that's when, like, you don't want to do that. You would definitely want to come from a true place creatively. But as you develop it, the great thing about developing a script point, you haven't spent a lot of money. You've done all the hard work of creating it. on the writing process or the design process. And at that particular time, you can ask, maybe take a step back or have somebody take a look at it from an outside perspective, or even myself. If you want to, shoot me what you have, I can look at it and say, okay, so yeah, from a marketing standpoint, I think this is where you can generate your 500 transactions, your 1,000 true fans, and try, this is potential ways you can, sell $100 product, and then you're like, oh, cool. Then we feel good. We can just move forward and make it, or whatever it is. And then once you make it, the creative process, things change. And that's that's the one thing that drives me nuts for like the business marketing part of it, is that people don't understand like where you start creatively and where it ends sometimes is not the same thing. So even though you might have a marketing message and marketing plan at the beginning, it completely changes maybe by the time you're finished with your film, because things happen. They're like, I wasn't planning on that, but I mean, nothing is. The studio systems do the best they can to hedge their bets and be risk averse. But the uber independent filmmaker could be a little bit more nimble, I think, and feel comfort in knowing like, that's cool. That's cool. If I don't get a distribution deal, I know why. That's that world of how they need to make and sell films. But the way I want to make something, I know that I only have to sell 500 units or whatever it is. So it feels doable. Anyway.
No, I much appreciated. It's funny. I mentioned a friend who already has something on VOD on Vimeo, and what's interesting about it, it's like talking about like hedging your bets and doing something that's safe. It's like this one film is just so bizarre. Seriously, it's like, but it's like, and it follows along with that. Like, don't try to fit in the lines. Just do what's follow your passion and find the people who are really gonna love it, and also like abscond with someone else's fan base. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, like, because somebody already might have had some success, or people are talking about some really bizarre type films. You can see that person entering the conversation with somebody already. There's already like 50,000 people already talking about it or something. Then that person presents in snippets, or they're part of that conversation. And that's where I say like the fun of like these short making of videos or these Vine things. People see the joy or understand the creative process of why you made something so bizarre. You're letting somebody in on, the behind the scenes stuff, which is why, DVD bonus features are always fun for a lot of people.
Right.
Package that up into a bundle that you sell for actually more than the actual film. Then that's one business plan you can go with. So
it's a solid business plan for now, and and the best one I've heard, for something that's on like the totally like below indie level, like the really micro indie level. So I think it's a actionable and well thought out. And I mean, all your ideas have made me rethink, how I'm going about this, and it's serving your audience. It's like, hello, what an idea.
Well, that's just it. Like if you go to the American film market, you go to the markets, the one thing that's missing was, I was there this past year, past November, what's fascinating is no audience. Like everybody's there to try to make a deal with another person who's a deal maker.
Yeah, your audience there is distributors.
Yeah, and so they're all removed because they're all asking the same thing. Like, yeah, I think we could sell this. I think the audience, from our metrics, audiences respond to these schlock genre films or whatever it might be. But they don't know. They're still guessing. But the whole point is, you're a success if you can make the deal. And the audience is so removed, which is why you get a lot of backlash from people going, what the hell's going on with the Hollywood? Or these films being proved? Why are they so bad? Because the industry that has to make them sometimes just have to turn out the schlock because they're just making the deals. So the uber independent can, if they go completely opposite, where they can make something wildly weird, but be more engaged and open in the process of doing so. That's the selling point, really, to connect with an audience, to allow somebody into their process and into their weirdness, or who knows? I don't know. It's there's definitely no one way to get to it, but I think at least for the uber independent, we don't have to feel like the distribution deal is the holy grail. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
to feel that we need to compete in the same transaction numbers as the Hollywood studio systems. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
don't need to compete trying to get so many numbers. And we don't need to compete with each other because there's no
Mm-hmm.
scarcity. We're not all competing for the one spot in Sundance or whatever it might be. Like, your audience is completely different than my audience, and we should all feel that way. And it's the more, you know, the abundance mindset of just keeping healthy that way, then it should liberate you to feel like,
Mm-hmm.
great.
I think so, and like you're talking about different audiences, there's not a competition. If your movie is about bicycles and mine's about dominoes,
Mm-hmm.
they're not sabotaging each other.
Yeah.
It's an abundance concept, which I what can I say? I freaking love it.
Yeah. It's liberating. It feels
Yeah.
great. I remember a couple of years going to AFM, feeling the stress of feeling like, you know, you got to feel like make this deal, or you got to make you feel important, or somebody's important's got to notice me. When you're not insecure that way, I was just enjoying just hanging out, just talking to anybody. And because I was in a place of like, I'm not selling anything, I'm just here to listen and ask questions and have conversations. It was much more enjoyable that way because I felt I could be of service, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting. I actually have to wrap it up. Sorry, I have to take my daughter and her friends, the teenage girls. Paper Towns is starting this Friday. The next, the guy who wrote the book for Fault of Our Stars. This is the
Ah,
next
yes.
film.
Mm-hmm.
This is John, what's his name? John something. That's talking about somebody who's an uber rock star and engaging his audience. That author is a great case study.
Well, we can all get there if we do something right, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. But you know,
hey,
yeah.
before I go, I just want to say to anybody who might be watching, uh, watch Scott's movie The Cube. Go to Vimeo, spend it's $3 or $4 because Scott's very humble about that movie, and it delivers more than he presents it when he talks humbly about it. And so Natasha, my wife, she loved it, and I loved it. So do yourself a favor, and you're helping him out a little too.
You know, that's really sweet of you. Thank you so much. Yeah, you know, that's I don't know what to say. Thank you very much. But for those of you who stayed around and listened, be sure to check the show notes when we're all done here. I'm going to provide links to everything that Martin and Natasha are doing, all the stuff that they're working on. And you're always welcome to come back to see where you're at, because it's like to, you know, have this platform to say, hey, we experimented with something. It was kind of cool. We came to this breakthrough. This is really great. This did happen, or this funny thing happened, or this bad thing happened, or whatever it might be. But you're always welcome to come back and share with us your journey.
Much appreciated. I will definitely do it.
Awesome. So before I sign out here, my version of paying the bills, everybody, is if you want to know more about the stuff I'm talking about in the book that Martin was talking about, it's this book, How to Make and Sell Your Film Online and Survive the Hollywood Implosion While Doing It. Is available as a Kindle, audiobook, and paperback book over at Amazon. And if you just go to survivetheemplosion.com, you can get that. But you know what? One last thing. You really shouldn't go away empty-handed. You know, you should get something for free if you stayed around. We were talking about the digital download numbers or video on demand numbers. And last week I talked about video on demand sales projections. So if you are in need of seeing some real VOD numbers and digital download numbers, I've been putting together these free weekly VOD and digital download reports, and that you can get sent directly to your inbox. All you have to do is go over to freevodreports.com and you can get that. And you're all set. And you also join the Film Trooper family, where I try to provide you as much more information as I can. So thanks for everybody for joining in on another episode of Film Trooper Presents Film Marketing Fridays. I will see you next time. Thank you.